Hi guys, so today's video is going to be a duology review for the Blood of Stars duology, which would be Spin the Dawn and Unravel the Dusk by Elizabeth Lim. I did end up really enjoying this duology, but I think that if you go in with maybe not the right expectations, then you might be setting yourself up to find that this isn't what you're really looking for, or maybe if you know what to expect, you're more likely to want to pick it up, because I do think that this story is kind of equal parts love story and fantasy story. And when I had first heard it described, I didn't really realize that the love story was going to play such a big role, but it plays a huge role in the story. And if you love stories that do have a little bit more of a love story to them, I think that you'll end up really liking this duology. But if you're not in the mood for that, or if that's just not your thing, you're probably gonna want to pass. It's a single point of view story following our main character Maya, and you do get it in first person, so it's just her thoughts the entire time. Maya has had a very difficult upbringing. She has lost two of her brothers to the war. That's this ongoing war in her country. Her one remaining brother has been injured from this war. Her mother died when she was very young, and her father, he just doesn't have the same love for life that he used to, because he's lost so many people that he cared so strongly for. Her father ran a little shop where he was kind of like the tailor for their village, and he has not really enhanced his skills. In fact, his skills have started to decrease, and so Maya very early on has kind of had to care for her family, and she secretly is the one that does pretty much all of the work for them, and they can't really have this be an openly known fact because girls aren't really supposed to be the ones running shops and things like that. So while it's not bad for her to know how to have this skill, she's really not supposed to be the one to be running things, and this proves to be troublesome when her skill gains recognition from the emperor, and they end up wanting to recruit her father or her brother to compete in this kind of like a competition to become the emperor's tailor. Maya knows that her father and her brother are not the ones that they are actually looking for. She's the one with that skill set, and so she decides to disguise herself as her brother and go in his place. And so you kind of get the Mulan trope in the story. If you love the Mulan trope, I think you're gonna like that element. I personally am such a sucker for people doing everything in their power in stories to help their families, and Maya, one thing I really appreciated is that she is always thinking about them. She doesn't just go off and go on this mission and then it's like never thinks about them again. She thinks about them all the time. It's what fuels her, it's what keeps her going, and it's what also, when she is faced with some dangerous circumstances, it's what pushes her onward because she's always thinking about them. So that really endeared me to her, that despite having lived such a difficult life and having lost so many people, she's still so strong for her family, but it's a quiet strength. She's learned to kind of be in the background because she's had to be in the background, and she's having to continue to be strong without really being who she is openly in front of everybody. She can't be like, guess what, everybody, it just turns out I'm a chick and you all have bad views of the world. She can't do that for the sake of her family, even though that would be like so satisfying. Also, I really loved Maya's passion for this skill that she has with tailoring, and the way that this passion has a connection to her mother who had passed away, I thought it was really well done. And I also think that just in general, sometimes when a character in a story has a passion that isn't a passion of yours, it's hard to connect to it, but I think the author did such an amazing job of having this be kind of like a universal feeling that lots of people who have a passion for something feel. I just think she did it so well, and the descriptions of the clothes and of making the clothes and of the materials of the clothes, I never thought I would care, because I say pretty often that one of my, I guess you could call it a pet peeve, one of the things I don't love about fantasy is when they go on and on and on about the clothes. It drives me crazy. I don't care. But in this story, it was relevant to the character. It was part of her character, and it was a part of her passion. And the descriptions were so lush and so beautiful, and I just wanted, I could picture these clothes. I wanted to see these clothes. I loved the descriptions. I will say though, you're probably wondering, where's the love story come into play? And that has to do with kind of a shift that you see within the first book. Some things go down, which I won't elaborate on because obviously spoilers, but some stuff goes down and Maya is pretty much tasked with the impossible. She is tasked with this mission to gather these materials to make these dresses that are magical, and she has to do this. She has to go to all these different places to get these materials, and in doing this, that's kind of where we start to see the love story. It's also where you get descriptions of more than just the clothes. The world opens up a little bit. If you're somebody who loves really big worlds, you're not going to get a really big world. You're going to get a more whimsical fairy tale-like feeling, because it's like, now we go here, and this is what this area looks like. It's that kind of a thing, not this particular place, the customs here are this way, and also the way that these people speak. Like, you get bits and pieces of that depending on who they interact with along their journey, but it's not really to the same extent as an epic fantasy would have. Also, the magic in the story is very magical. It's very kind of story time type magic where, oh, well, the gods back in the day, this one goddess, well, she was sad and her tears created this, and then that's why this is possible. It's kind of one of those situations. There's not a system of magic, but I know that I think is what contributed to this feeling somewhat fairy tale-like. And if you go in knowing that it's going to be that kind of a setup, I think if you're craving that in a story, this is going to be the one that you want to pick up. This is all having a lot to do with the first book. The second book, the stakes are raised a lot. The minor characters in the first book play a bigger role in the second book. People that you're like, oh, this character, just like, they were just there. They're not just there. They end up playing a role in the second one, and some people I wasn't expecting to come back, and I really liked how the author kind of tied that together. I think that the pacing, I liked that this was a duology. I think if it had been stretched out too much, I would have thought at some point there was middle book syndrome, or I would have thought certain things dragged, and I think a standalone wouldn't have been long enough because that feeling of time passing, I think we needed it to be split in order to have that feeling. There's also a friendship in the second book that is expanded on from the first one, and I loved the friendship. And something with main characters that I always really like is when you know what the characters want in life. It's something that I think is very relatable when the characters are like, I just can't wait till all this chaos is over. If we make it through this, I can have my simple little shop by the sea or something, right? And you're like, I want you to have that simple shop by the sea. But when you can see that in side characters too, when you're like, oh, I hope you get this, whatever it is. I don't want to spoil it. But whenever you can have that connection to side characters too, I love that. And I loved getting to see the way our little friendship blossomed in the second book. I did, however, think that the second one, I didn't really know where we were going for a while when the first part of the second book was happening, and I was kind of just along for the ride. I wasn't really sure how I was going to feel about the duology in its entirety when I started the second one, but I liked it a lot. I really liked how everything came together. I liked what ended up happening with the love story. I liked what ended up happening with the friendships. I liked the stakes, and I liked that the kind of folklore fairy tale elements were sort of there throughout. Again, like I said, the magic system is one of those that you just kind of have to go with the flow. But I think it resulted in it being very whimsical, which I liked. Now, one thing that I can't give away about the ending for spoiler reasons is the feeling of the ending, meaning happy or sad, or is it beautiful, or is it tragic and bittersweet, those sorts of things. I can't reveal exactly because just saying that would kind of ruin the experience for some people, but I personally did end up really enjoying the ending a lot. However, I can see if you're hoping for one specific thing and it's not that, I can see where you maybe wouldn't love it, but I thought as far as the way the author wrapped things up, it was the ending I was hoping for. I wasn't sure if we were going to get it. Ultimately, if you like the Mulan trope, if you like love stories, if you like kind of very sweet, cutesy love stories, if you like that whimsical feel, if you like magic that feels very magical, I think you're going to really like this duology. However, if you are somebody who likes really extensive world building, if you like magic systems, if you like multiple point of views, all those sorts of things, not really what you're getting. If you also don't really like love stories playing that big of a role, this is probably really not the duology for you. However, if some of the other things have sounded interesting, I would say give it a go. One last thing I want to add for those of you who have read the first one, but aren't really sure if you want to pick up the second. I read the first one and I enjoyed it. I wasn't head over heels for it. I didn't absolutely love it, but I was curious enough to pick up the second one, and I personally am so glad I did. I wasn't really sure when I first started how I was going to feel, but by the end, I did really like it. It is a very whimsical, almost fairy tale-esque type of story with the love story being so big of a role. But knowing that and then going into the second one, that's what I got. That's what I was expecting, and I ended up really, really liking it. I think it took things from the first and kind of expanded on those things in the second. So that would be my 2 cents. If you've read the first one, you liked it, but you're kind of like on the fence, I would say give the second one a go. If you end up picking up this duology, feel free to tag me over on Instagram. I'm at EBNovels. I'll definitely want to see what you end up thinking of it. But anyway, thanks so much for watching. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.